Our money is deteriorating rapidly. Our liberties and freedoms are decaying on a daily basis. There's a war on free speech in this nation. There's a war on free society in this nation.
Welcome back to the channel. Aaron here from Bitcoin Bros. Make sure to check out this video that we're going to be playing here. This is from Charles Hoskinson. He's talking about everything that's wrong with the U.S. political system, why they're attacking the crypto industry, what's going to happen next with that. And he gives all of his thoughts on everything that is wrong with the system and how people in the crypto industry need to fight back with their vote. So make sure to watch this one all the way to the end. A lot of great information in today's video. Let's go ahead and check out the clip here.
And my broader point was that the system is badly damaged, and it's a bipartisan duopoly that operates on the concept of lesser of two evils. It is absolutely extraordinary how much we're willing to excuse in people because we don't want to let the other side win. The Democrats claim to be a party of democracy, that they believe everybody's voice and vote should count. Numerous third-party candidates, RFK included, have been directly by the DNC targeted to prevent them from appearing on the ballot. They took the time to collect the tens of thousands of signatures, hire the lawyers, file the paperwork, and any technicality, any issue, even if it doesn't actually exist, they're going to sue you over it, prevent you from getting on the ballot because of the risk of taking votes away from them. That's not democracy. When one weaponizes the legal system to attack their political opponents, it's not democracy. We've endured 4 years of lawfare against the cryptocurrency industry. And people on Team Blue seem to excuse it and say, well, Trump did some stuff. No, Choke Point 2.0 was a unique phenomena of Biden, as is the SEC going after nearly every American exchange and most of the layer 1 protocols in some way or another. We do not live in an age of clarity, and when we've asked for it, including legislation that was common sense, bipartisan, and sensible, it was either vetoed or killed in committee because of this current administration. And yet we're told that somehow they're going to be pro-crypto, but apparently the party that believes in democracy, which threatened to remove the sitting president using the 25th Amendment, party that believes in democracy, which picked their candidate with no votes or democratic process that was allowed, tells us that this candidate's policies, we're just going to have to wait until after she's been elected to know what they are. There's no accountability there, and there's no apology there. It's a crooked and broken thing. The Republican Party doesn't do that anymore. It's become a cult of personality around MAGA. And MAGA doesn't really have a core. Doesn't matter what the leader says or does, we just have to accept it and fall in line. And while there's an open mind to new things and new concepts, let's be exceedingly clear here. There is no core outside of loyalty to a single individual. That has always been the credo of Trump. You can't follow a person like this because at the end of the day, you can't trust their motivations. You can't trust how they're going to make decisions. You can't trust they're actually going to lead. You don't feel proud. You feel afraid. And that's a very different concept than where we are at, what we need. I was hopeful for third parties because we could talk about things like the $35 trillion national debt. And what concisely are we going to do about that as a nation? That translates to half of every dollar we collect in income tax being spent on the interest on the debt. Not paying down the debt, just the interest of it. Imagine if you personally lived a life like that, where you spent half of your paycheck paying your credit card interest payments, not even the principal. Imagine that. Imagine how catastrophic and damaging that would be. Could you ever climb out of that hole? And that's where we're at as a nation. And both parties are moving us towards a $50 to $75 trillion national debt within the next 10 years, which will translate to 100% of every dollar we collect in taxation going to the interest on the debt. Apparently, Kamala Harris supports a wealth tax, as well as a tax on unrealized capital gains. And it's excused by saying, well, rich people will pay it, so it's okay. I don't think people fully understand or appreciate what that translates to. What that means is the government will then have a legal right to know every single thing you own and every single year have accountants figure out if those things are more or less valuable. And if they're more valuable, despite the fact that you haven't realized any of it, you will be sent a bill. And if you can't pay that bill, you will be forced to liquidate the things that you own. In many cases, are illiquid. And what if you disagree at the government's assessment of the valuation of the paintings on your wall, the real estate you own, the private businesses which have no liquidity? Well, you'll be in tax court for 5 to 10 years. And when the government loses, you don't get the legal fees back. This is so far away from any semblance of liberty and freedom. This is so far away from what we started as Americans. It's wrong. And I don't care if it's for people over $100 million of net wealth. That's how it starts, just like how the income tax started in 1913, where the highest bracket was 7%, and it was only for the millionaires. And we woke up 20 years later with the highest bracket being over 90%. And now each and every one of you has to deal with taxation. That is what these people do. And notice something, not a single discussion about cutting the federal budget. If you cut it by 5% every year, in just 10 years, you could balance the entire federal budget and we'd have a surplus. Apparently, our government says to us there is no reality where we can be 5% more efficient every year. We now have to entertain the idea of taking your assets by the barrel of a gun, whether you've realized value or not. But don't worry, it's the millionaires and billionaires, so it'll be okay. Philosophically, this is profoundly wrong. The only reason why I even talk about politics is because the war on crypto was declared unprovoked, unilaterally on us as an industry. We didn't show up and say, gosh, we don't want to follow any regulations, fuck the system, burn the whole government down. There were certainly some people in the industry who did that, like the Silk Road folks and others. And you know what? The Justice Department dealt with them. Fairly or unfairly, it dealt with them. But everybody was trying to innovate and build a new economy, a $2 trillion economy in less than 15 years. The US government invited itself to the party, told us all we're criminals, told us to do things they knew for a fact were impossible to do. And then when we didn't do it because it's not possible to do, punished us arbitrarily and capriciously. And when they lost in court, claimed victory and continued to do it. That's why the crypto space is so radically involved. And all we asked for was just stop. That's it. We're not asking for tax breaks, subsidies. Just stop and give us clarity and fair rules. And you know what? As an industry, we came together with the FIA, with Fit 21, dozens of attempts, thousands of meetings to say this is fair and reasonable. You can do your job, we can do our job, and fraud stops. And you know what we're welcomed with? Come in and register, go fuck yourself, and we're going to destroy you. So Trump, being a politician, caught wind of this and realized there's a great political opportunity in creating an alliance with our industry. It'll probably be shortly lived because when the industry is inconvenient to him, he'll turn on it, as he has done on every single person throughout his entire life that has been inconvenient to him. Just ask General Mattis. Just ask Rex Tillerson. Just ask the thousands of people throughout his life that have touched him and worked with him. So a brief reprieve, perhaps some legislation, maybe they get off our back for a little bit. But let's be clear here. Our industry is not going to stop growing. It's not going to stop getting to new heights. And yes, at some point, it will challenge the legitimacy of all fractional reserve banks and fiat currencies. Because at the end of the day, cryptocurrency creates sound money. And if the US is unwilling or unable to embrace that, what that translates to is eventually a philosophical war, much like the war between the Soviet Union and the United States, where our philosophies were so radically incompatible with each other, the best we could hope for was a Cold War. One side eventually has to give way and accept that the philosophy of the other is going to win. And I would like to live in a world where everyone is treated equally. I'd like to live in a world where everybody has fair consideration. I'd like to live in a world where no matter where you're born, where you come from, you have a chance to rise and succeed. I think you would too.